This stage of the moon's monthly renewal will signal the beginning of every new month. This month, Nissan, must be for you the beginning of the months. It must be for you the first of the months of the year, your Rosh Hashanah.
Shalom, and welcome again to another short edition of the Torah Watchman Show International LLC, hosted by none other, Hakam Ya'ar ben-Emmett. Hope everyone had a wonderful week. Something new I learned this Sabbath Kodesh. Yes, even at nearly 61 years of age, I still learn new things. Why? Because I have an open mind to the Torah. And even the rabbinics, the 11th and 12th century, and all their imaginative, creative ideas about adding and subtracting to the Torah is something forbidden. But anyway, in the book of Shemot, or Exodus, chapter 12, verses 1 through 2, and this is Parsha Bo, which means to come in Hebrew. I've already did videos on this before. You can check them out on my channel, about the real Rosh Hashanah, the real Jewish New Year's Day, was literally the first day of the month of the sun, as the rabbinics lovingly named the first month. Nowhere in the Torah, with only a few exceptions, maybe Tammuz or something, is roughly mentioned as a mourning period for pagans by, I believe, Ezekiel did that. But anyway, nowhere in the Torah, in the 5 books of Moshe, books of the Torah, does it say anything about naming any month. We go simply from 1 to 12, okay? In a leap year, it's an implication you have an extra 30 days you need to fulfill for that. Where I'm going, okay, if you turn with me to Exodus chapter 12, verses 1 through 2, and I did a caricature of this, a smart short video on this, with Moshe saying this himself in English. But anyway, Moshe said very clearly, only because God told him to. This is not Moshe's opinion. This was not the Levitical priesthood at that time. Was it their opinion? It wasn't a supposition or some guesswork or interpretation of some ancient doctrine or writing. It simply said the truth. The most important event was the exodus of the Hebrew people from Goshen, Egypt, after roughly 234 years of bondage there since the time of Joseph. Since the time he died, he was at the right hand of the Pharaoh during his time. But anyway, this was at the end of the horrible, horrible 10th plague against Pharaoh. He lost his firstborn son. And this was the institution of Passover beginning that month. Now, how do you know the beginning of any month, a Hebrew month in our Hebrew calendar? Well, it's the new moon, yes. Even the Babylonians, they architected wonderful, inventive things in their time. They were the Sumerians, I believe, were the first one maybe, but Babylon is actually well noted for the solar clock per se. The time dial for solar clock, where the shadow of the sun, depending on your latitude, shows you the time. And also looking at constellations as they revolve around the North Star. For people that don't know anything about astronomy, or essentially the Ursa Major, Ursa Minor, the Big Dipper, Little Dipper, you actually can see them going around the North Star clockwise, and you know approximately what time it is at night. And also, more importantly, we're talking about is Rosh Chodesh, which is the new moon. Now, we get that out. The reason why God wanted to talk about Rosh Chodesh before he talks about Shabbat, before he talked about Passover, any other thing for the future, for the young Jewish people, for the young Israel, the servant of Yaakov, they're still in Goshen, okay? They're not left yet. He said on the first day of the month, okay, will be the head of all months, the new year, okay? And this is Rosh Chodesh. It's like a Big Ben, that big massive clock, you hear about. It's like a big clock in the sky that you see at night. And you see the phases of the moon transitioning, waxing, waning, and all of this. You know, when it was new moon that day, I don't know if the Jews, or how busy they were, and they were getting ready to leave and packing their bags and thinking about leaving and all this, instituting Passover very shortly, that kind of thing. But God said, wake up, set your clocks right now. This is new moon, it's Rosh Chodesh. You will celebrate this great and wonderful blessed holiday for all generations. The reason why I'm telling you that this is new moon, because in exactly 15 days, you will stop eating all leavened bread products. You will be eating matzah and instituting Passover and getting the pakal lamb, the kosher lamb suitable for temple sacrifices, essentially, the best of the best. You identify that lamb, that it's clean, it is free from illness, it's not have one blind eye, no diseases, not spotted. Get that lamb into your home and take care of it. Don't let anything happen to it. Adopt it and make it a pet. And then you would slaughter it on the 14th. Well, Passover would be, when you would have it, all this would be just a moot point if you don't know when the beginning of the month was. And of course, this was the spring in Goshen, Egypt. We know this is probably right around the end or the beginning of the spring equinox and the end of winter. And you're talking about counting Omer. Well, yes, you began that approximately the second day traditionally in Orthodox circles. Absolutely, the second day of Passover, you're counting Omer. If you have wheat growing and you have a kernel of grain that you can take to market and measure it by the weight measurement Omer during that time. But anyway, it says very clearly in Exodus 12, 1 through 2, that the Jewish New Year forever, for all generations, not because Moses said it, not because Aaron said it, not because anyone in the Levitical priesthood said it, it's because God said face to face with Moshe, tell the Jewish people this. Rosh Chodesh begins with this month. It may have begun thousands of years ago and you didn't pay attention, you didn't write it down, but I'm telling you, it's important now because we're going to celebrate and never forget Passover. And partial bowl, we talked about that, okay? I'm not going to get into that holiday, but quickly again, the head of all months, the beginning of the new year is the first day of the month in Nissan. Now, when you read this, and your art scroll Hamas per se, and I have one of those, and you read the commentary, you see predominantly Rashi, the instigator in crime per se. I don't mean in disrespect, but he said very clearly, we cannot celebrate the Jewish New Year as God commanded Moshe did in his time. Why? Because of Smika, because there was no ordained rabbi certified and licensed who knows anything about astronomy or astronomical signs or be able to forecast and predict when there'll be a new moon. Are you kidding me? They said because there's no rabbinical court, they didn't have a minyan, no one could agree with it. So in the Talmud, and Rashi had his own Torah, Mishnah, whatever, he said as he made a decision there and everyone listened to him and followed him and it became halakha, at least in the Ashkenazi world, later in Sephardim as well. And Karaites follow suit with that because it is their tradition. We don't control all things Jewish, unfortunately, at this time. We will in the time of Mashiach, I predict, But anyway, Rashi essentially said he said in the commentary, it's in the Torah that the month of Tishrei would be Rosh Hashanah. Folks, it does not say anywhere in the Torah the word Tishrei. It does not say the seventh month would be the Jewish New Year. It does not say that at all. The seventh month was the month that you would be celebrating Yom Kippur about a week after the beginning of that Rosh Chodesh, that new moon cycle. But every Hebrew month on your calendar begins with Rosh Chodesh, the new moon, okay? Even today, an astute observer, or not so astute, if you go outside in the evening and you don't see any moonlight whatsoever in the east, you wait a few hours, you still don't see any moonlight, and you wake up early in the morning, you still don't see any moonlight, it is new moon. It really is. Because I've seen that the very first day of the Hebrew month, The very thin crescent moon is rare to see it because usually there's clouds and fog and mist, whatever, and you don't see it depending on your tree line. You know what it is. This is a misnomer. Rashi, Jews were not ignorant in the 11th century. They may have not had the scientific method, empirical science. Ramban brought that, closer to the 12th century. It's not germane to get into all that. But anyway, Rashi claimed and said, since there was no one trained to look at the stars and tell the difference between a full moon, a waxing moon, a quarter moon, a half moon, and no moon at all for a new moon, that we have to go with the 7th month. He decided then, since Yom Kippur is there, let's invent a new year to begin in the first of that month, the 7th month. Folks, just use simple mathematics and not Common Core. If the month of Tishrei is the 7th month, you go back in time to the first month. The first month in any calendar system is always the new year. Even the Gregorian calendar, January 1st, is always a new year. Is this funny? Or is this, I'm not trying to be facetious, but this is a crime committed by the rabbinates. And I wish more rabbis would have a spine, the hoops on, to actually stand up and say this, that this is an abomination and adding and subtracting against the Torah, and it's forbidden. And Davarim, it says very clearly, it is forbidden to add and subtract to the Torah. And don't tell me that Noahides and others said we need moral fencing and all this stuff. That's just nonsense, folks. That's just nonsense. I'm not indicting Jewish tradition. I'm just speaking fact from fiction. Rosh Chodesh began with the first month of the Jewish New Year, the first month begins for the month of Passover, and it's always in the spring. It always is around spring equinox. You hear about Groundhog Day and all that stuff. It's always going to be there. But one ingenious thing, I'm going to give kudos to the rabbis for inventing, is the third month, is second edition of Adar 2 for leap years. Yes, but how was a leap year elaborated? How was it interpreted or calculated in the time of Moshe? The Torah says nothing about the leap year. There's something called ounce of common sense. When you know that something's odd about this year, is different this year, you can see the inclination or the angle of the moon and the sun and position of stars and the zodiac and the movement of the planets and all this and the constellation. You see something's a little bit off, that a month is not always 28 days. Sometimes it's 30 days. You see that is what it is. The main important thing is that in spring, on spring equinox, or within a week after, it has to be spring. It says it's in spring. It was in spring in ancient Goshen, Egypt, during that time for Torah Parsha Bo, that the first month of Nissan, per se, was Rosh Chodesh, the head of all months, the head of the year. Folks, this single verse, or verses, chapter 12, verse 1, verse 2, if more people would speak about it astutely as I have, and told you a little bit about the history of Rashi's extrapolation of what he believed to be true and all of this stuff, it unravels oral law completely. It's like you find that hidden thread in a beautiful tapestry and you pull that one thread, the entire tapestry falls apart. It's the hint, it's the cornerstone of truth or lie. Now, you see people lie sometimes out of innocence. They say a white lie. They don't ignorant. They don't mean what they're saying is a lie, whatever. But this is premeditated. This is tactical. This is strategic by Rashi and others during that time, during the 11th century. They predicted that the Jews would be in a diaspora until the time of the Mashiach. 1948, Israel declared independence again, and we are a country again. And most Jews know they can go to Google and everything else today and go to the Weather channel, whatever, and they find out very easy the lunar cycles. It tells you exactly. We can predict that. And computer models right now going all the way back to the beginning of time. Anyway, Shalom Aleichem. I hope this short video was meaningful to you. understand why I'm a Ka'ite Jew, because I do not want to lie. I do not want to exaggerate the truths of the 613 mitzvot of the 5 books of Torah that was written by the beautiful hand of Moshe, the only person that met face to face with Yehovah Elohim Halamed, our God, your God, who said these things were true for his generation and every generation in the future. Instead of one Jewish New Year beginning in the first month, the month of Nissan, I call it the month of Pesach, the rabbis created 3 additional New Years too. It's just like when you tell a lie and you found out you tell a lie, what do? You create another lie and another lie and another lie. I think I said too much. I think I got myself in trouble. I hope I was not too scandalous. But anyway, God bless you. Shalom Aleichem. Peace, brother.
If you've enjoyed this program, please click like and subscribe.